Hello class. Today we are going to be talking about blood. In particular, we're going to be talking about its function in your body, what the blood cells are, and we may have time for a couple blood disorders. Now, what is blood? What is blood? Well, blood is a bodily fluid, and its role is to carry the things your body not only needs, the nutrients it needs, the oxygen, but also the waste products, for example, carbon dioxide, right? We explored carbon dioxide as a waste product, and well, we need to get rid of it because if we don't, it will acidify our blood, right? The carbonic acid will build up and you get acidosis, which is not good. So your blood has an essential role to play in transporting the things you need and the things you don't. The average person has somewhere in the range of 5 to 6 liters of blood in their body. But of course, there's people that fall outside of this, right? The larger you are, the larger your bodily volume of blood will be. There are 3 components to blood. If I were to take your blood, put it inside a test tube, and then spin it really quickly in what we call a centrifuge, your blood would separate into these different layers. Now, a centrifuge just separates things based on their density, effectively. And here we find that the densest part of your blood is your red blood cells, and about 45% by volume of your blood is red blood cells. Only 1%, or even less than 1%, are your white blood cells and your platelets. We all know what red blood cells do, right? They carry your oxygen, they carry your carbon dioxide, but what do white blood cells do? We're going to explore those in much more detail, but those are your important immune cells of your body. And lastly here we have plasma, which is the liquid medium, if you will, of your blood. But this carries a lot of different proteins and a lot of other supporting factors as well. So we got plasma, we got blood cells, in particular red and white blood cells. And lastly, platelets. And platelets I would almost group in with white blood cells because believe it or not, they used to be a white blood cell. So what are the functions of your blood? Well, transportation is the main one. Right? We take oxygen from the lungs, we give it to all of the cells of your body. We are going to take CO2 from your cells and return it back to the lungs. We're going to take nutrients from your digestive tract, right? The nutrients absorbed into the veins of your small intestine will go into the hepatic portal vein, go through your liver for further metabolization, and it'll transport things like hormones. Right? How does your body cells know that it's time to uptake glucose? Because your blood glucose is too high. Well, you're going to release insulin. Where does that insulin get released into? Well, it gets released into your blood. And it will also take waste products to your kidneys. For example, urea is a byproduct of the breakdown of proteins. So when we're using proteins for energy, we're breaking down proteins. We need to get rid of that waste product, and our kidneys do that for us. Our blood is also important in regulation. Now, it's important that we maintain our body temperature, and we talked about this in homeostasis. What's going to happen if you're really cold? What's going to happen in your fingers and your toes, your extremities? To maintain your core temperature, it's going to constrict. Vasoconstriction is going to happen in your extremities, right? Your blood vessels are going to constrict, cut off blood flow, and that's in order to protect your core, right? To keep your core temperature stable. Now, what's going to happen if you're super, super hot? Vasodilation. The blood vessels in your skin are going to dilate. That's why if you are very pale, like me, your face gets very red when you've worked up a sweat, right? That's because the blood is literally flowing to your skin. You have a lot more fluid volume of blood going to your skin to cool your body down, right? The evaporative cooling of the blood that's at your skin. Maintaining pH, right? We get rid of that CO2 so we don't get a buildup of acid in our blood. We maintain the fluid volume. We'll learn much more about this when we get to the excretory system, but it is important that we maintain proper osmolality of the blood, right? We got to make sure that our blood is isotonic to our tissues effectively. If it goes too far in either direction, that's not good. It's also involved in protection. We're going to do a whole entire unit on the immune system, especially because of what's happening in the world right now. But your blood has a major role to play because it houses a bunch of white blood cells. And what does your immune system do? Prevents infection through white blood cells and antibodies, detecting and attacking foreign substances. Also, our blood has clotting factors in it and platelets, which allow our blood vessels to stop the loss of fluids. So what is our blood actually made out of? What are the specifics in regards to our plasma, our red blood cells, and our white blood cells and platelets? Well, our plasma is straw-colored and sticky. It makes up 55% of the blood, and it's made out of mostly water, right? It's 91.5% water. It's 7% proteins and about 1.5% dissolved solutes. Now, your plasma proteins are things like albumins. These are essential for maintaining blood pressure, right? You do need a certain level of blood pressure. You don't want your blood pressure to be way too low. That's not good. But you also don't want it to be way too high. If it's too high, it increases your risk of stroke and heart attack. Fibrinogen is essential for clotting. It's one of those essential clotting proteins. In its name, fibrin, fibers, this is a fibrous protein that forms kind of a mesh over that wound. You have globulins. Now, the most important one in your body are immunoglobulins. Those are antibodies. Another class of them are transport proteins as well. Now, your blood cells, you got two types. You got red blood cells and you've got white blood cells. Now, red blood cells, aka erythrocytes, that is the sciencey word for red blood cells, erythrocytes, they lack a nucleus. Why would they lack a nucleus? What is special about the shape of a red blood cell? Think about that for a second. What is special about the shape? Not only do they lack a nucleus, they lack most organelles. In fact, they have no organelles. They're giant sacs of hemoglobin, more or less. The protein which carries oxygen. Why? Why? Well, their shape as a result is concave, right? They look like a donut almost. If I were to draw it out, right, if I do a cross-section of your red blood cell, it looks like this, right? It almost looks like you have this indentation, this donut shape going on. And what's going to have more surface area? A shape like this or a shape like that? What's going to have more surface area? This is going to have much more surface area. So we adjust the shape of our red blood cells to increase their surface area over which gas exchange can occur. Okay, so that is the main reason why they lose their organelles, their nucleus, right? So they can adjust their shape to increase surface area. But also because capillaries are a tight squeeze, you need to be as small as possible, as compactable as possible. So again, they have this kind of donut shape. They have this depression in the center. And this shape is ideal for gas exchange because it increases the surface area of your red blood cell. Where are they made? Where are they made? Well, all of your blood cells are made in your bone marrow. And the process by which they are created is called hematopoiesis. Big sciencey word. And all of your blood cells are produced there, but not all of them mature there. Some do, some do not. Red blood cells, they live about 120 days, and you are replacing them all of the time. At the rate of about 1 to 2 million per second. So you have an immense amount of red blood cells in your body, and they are constantly being recycled. Now, what is the whole point of red blood cells? Well, they're giant sacks of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin carries oxygen, carbon dioxide, and it allows you to, well, oxygenate your tissues, right? Transport oxygen from the air to all of the cells of your body. So, main function of your blood, transport those respiratory gases, right? Get oxygen to your cells and take CO2 from your cells and bring it back to your lungs. White blood cells, the sciencey word for those are leukocytes. So for red blood cells, it's erythrocytes. And for white blood cells, it's leukocytes. And these leukocytes are complete cells, right? They have a nucleus, they got organelles. They are spherical generally, but they can change shape. Some of them exist in your blood as an army of macrophages. If you remember from the first unit, phage to eat, right? Macrophages, they eat up nasties in your body. You have an army of them in your blood that can actually change their shape and squeeze through capillaries. Now, they are larger in size than red blood cells, and they are much less numerous than red blood cells as well. Now, their main function is to protect your body against these thingies here, pathogens, which can range from everything from proteins, prions, that are horrible if you get something like Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease or mad cow disease. Those are prion proteins. It can be viruses, like the virus that is plaguing our world right now. It can be things like bacteria. It could be funguses, it can be protozoan infections, it can be parasitic worms like helminth worms, tapeworms. So there's a lot of different things out there that want to make your body their home, and our immune system is constantly trying to fight those things. So, from most abundant to least abundant, we have our neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, and then our basophils. These are your 5 types of white blood cell we will be exploring. Here's a little acronym to help you remember. Never let monkeys eat bananas. I'm sure you can come up with a better one than that. So, we break these up into 2 different classes. One class is going to be your granular white blood cells, and the other is your agranular. Now, your granular leukocytes contain granules. You saw that probably in this picture right here, right? They are the ones that have these visible vesicles full of granules. Now, those are going to be your neutrophils, your basophils, and your eosinophils. They're roughly spherical in shape, they got low nuclei, and the granules in the cytoplasm are visible, they're secretory vesicles. Now, the role of these secretory vesicles does depend upon which of these cells you are looking at. So, neutrophils They're the most abundant phagocyte in your body. This is a massive army of phagocytes that when they're called to action, let's say, I step on a rusty nail, there's going to be inflammatory messengers that are sent out. There's going to be pretty much a big chemical signal that says, we need your help. So tons of neutrophils will rush to the site, and they will absolutely obliterate everything there. They are very deadly macrophages, and they release all sorts of chemicals that do lots of damage to not only your cells, but all of the other things that are there, bacteria, viruses, pathogens, etc. Now you have eosinophils. These are specialists in killing parasites. If you had a parasitic worm living in your gut, your eosinophils would attack it and secrete things on it to kill it. And lastly, you have basophils. These are important for the inflammatory response. They will often release histamines, which is one of those inflammatory cytokines, one of those things that starts inflammation. And they are important for that, but these are also the jerks that give me allergies in the spring. So right now, all of the dust, all of the mold from all of the decaying organic matter, that is playing havoc on my body because my basophils are releasing these inflammatory cytokines, these histamines, really when they're not supposed to, against things that are harmless, not harmful. So agranular leukocytes, they do not have any of these granules within them. They are spherical or kidney-shaped nucleuses, but importantly, the class called your lymphocytes are the main players in your immune system. So you have your T, B, and your natural killer cells. So you have all of the players that make up the last kind of barrier of defense of your immune system. Now, B cells, they make antibodies. T cells, they recognize and respond to infected cells. Here I'm talking about your cytotoxic T cells. And natural killer cells destroy infected cells. Again, cytotoxic T cells. Now, monocytes, these are extremely large phagocytes, and these exist in your tissues. So unlike the neutrophils, which hide out in your blood, that army, the monocytes are found more so in your tissues. Monocytes, you can see, are quite large in comparison to the other cells. Last up is platelets. Now, platelets are cell fragments. They started out as a massive white blood cell called a megakaryocyte, which effectively went and killed itself, and then split up into a bunch of little chunks, which are your platelets. They have no nucleus. They have a lifespan of about 7 days. And they are just there for the clotting of your blood. In the absence of platelets, your blood will not clot properly. So again, platelets you can see if you stain for them within your blood. They're just little tiny chunks of that megakaryocyte. And you know what, I think we'll end that here today. So your blood, again, its main function, transporting nutrients around your body and then getting rid of those wastes. It's also involved in regulating homeostasis, maintaining thermoregulation, osmoregulation, and it's involved in protection, right? Those white blood cells are essential for protecting you from pathogens and things that want to make your body their home. Right on. Have a good day.